And welcome back to the highlight. We're talking all the fallout from the Australian Grand Prix. That historic Ferrari 1-2, the first one since 2004. Yes, Rain Carlos, absolutely fantastic, bang up job. But he wasn't the only story coming out of the fallout. We've spoken about Carlos. We've spoken about that slightly controversial for some Alonso penalty. However, Marko praises Yuki Tsunoda. He came out before Australia, kind of giving them a hurry up, both him and Danny Ricciardo, but very happy with Yuki Tsunoda. What does that mean? Because I've always thought Red Bull don't really want him. And in talking about not wanting him, Danny Rick, not Richard, Danny Rick. Who's Richard? Yeah, whoops, Danny Rick under pressure though. Tabloid suggestions outside of the UK that he could lose his drive to Lawson quite soon. Some people suggesting he's only got 2 races to improve. That's a bit harsh, isn't it? Perez has Aussie Grand Prix issues, yet there was a helmet pull-out stuck underneath his vehicle or something similar, which was costing him grip, which is why he was so slow. Did we judge him unfairly? And last but not least, Vasseur shutting down those Sainz talk after Sainz did an absolutely bang-up job. A lot of people suggested, why did you get rid of Carlos Sainz? Well, it's because they've got Lewis Hamilton, I guess. So, let's talk about the Australian fallout and specifically Marko being impressed with Mr. Tsunoda. Impressive Tsunoda must improve more though for Red Bull F1 seat. So yeah, he said he was impressed by Yuki Tsunoda's Australian Grand Prix, but he said he needs to, this guy, the bang up job needs to improve more. So Tsunoda, as we know, broke through the apparent barrier between F1's top and bottom 5 teams by he beat both Aston Martins. Yes, Alonso got that penalty in Melbourne, but he beat them both in Melbourne qualifying. He also out-qualified Lewis Hamilton by claiming 8th on the starting grid, just narrowly behind the other Mercedes of George Russell. He couldn't keep the faster Astons behind though, of Alonso and Stroll, but a retirement for Max Verstappen allowed him to stay 8th on the road, moving up to 7th after Alonso's penalty. Every lap was competitive and didn't do anything wrong. He was calm. That is praise indeed from Helmut Marko. And asked if this weekend's Australian Grand Prix is helping Tsunoda stake that claim for what Sergio Perez's Red Bull see. He said, or cautioned, as the article said, as we say, one swallow does not make a summer. So he has to improve more before he can be considered in this direction. Now, as RB leapfrogged Haas in that fight for 6th in the Constructors' Championships, Lord Mechie added, Yuki executed a fast, well-controlled race to top the whole midfield group and got us our first points of the season. He carried on saying he did not put a foot wrong all weekend and with calm and determination got faster session after session. Praise indeed for Yuki. More of the same. You may well be along Max Verstappen. Maybe. Danny Ricciardo? At the moment, not so much. And this one here is the latest on Daniel's future as Liam Lawson return rumours swirl. Yes. So Danny Ricciardo, he's going to have to pull up his socks. I think we can all agree he has had a very disappointing beginning of the season. 3 races in, and yeah, he's definitely been outshone by Tsunoda, which I don't think anyone really predicted. I didn't predict that. He did really well in Mexico. And I thought, okay, his hand's going to be healed coming into the new season. And yeah, disappointing. So is his seat in jeopardy? Well, as we know, he has got all this scrutiny underneath him after McLaren. He found his home with Red Bull, got into the AlphaTauri, now the Visa Cash app RB. So finding refuge with Red Bull initially as a reserve driver for their 2 teams, given the nod when Nick de Vries went, Red Bull basically got rid of him, which is the irony being that's something they might do even sooner if you believe the headlines, which I don't personally. But yeah, even sooner than Nick de Vries, could Danny Ricciardo be gone? So Lawson, as we know, he was drafted in as a substitute for 5 races, while Ricciardo in Holland broke his hand. He was out injured, and Lawson did an absolutely bang-up job. Now, according to a report, bear in mind, New Zealand, Lawson's home, that then they're suggesting that the opportunity could come quite soon, perhaps even as soon as the Miami Grand Prix. So the Herald suggested that Ricciardo has been given an ultimatum by Red Bull's Helmut Marko. If improvements aren't made soon, Lawson could could be given his car for the rest of the season. But Planet F1 understands that suggestions Ricciardo is in danger of losing his seat anytime soon are kind of premature. I think so too. While the Australian is being given the hurry up, he absolutely needs to. There's no intentions to replace him. Lawson's own management team have come forward to say Lawson has not been advised by Red Bull of any such moves, and the Kiwi driver has had no contact with the media or made any comment regarding a possible seat, going into Ricciardo's seat. However, Lawson remains hopeful that an opportunity does become available. And if you were a betting man, you kind of predicted one of these two would go to Red Bull because Sergio Perez would be doing very, very average. But all this rumours for that switch in time of Miami has been shot down. So Ricciardo fans, rest easy, but it's still very much in Ricciardo's hands. And speaking of Sergio Perez, yes, were we a bit harsh? I mean, it says here, Perez's Australian Grand Prix compromised by a tear-off. I said a pull-off, didn't I? Yeah. A tear-off stuck in an F1 car floor. So Sergio Perez's Australian Grand Prix outing is compromised because of a tear-off hampering the aerodynamic performance of his RB20. So he started in sixth, which was kind of disappointing, but he got that 3-place grid penalty, didn't he? For impeding, and yeah, he lost the place to George Russell at the start, but then he recovered to finish, fifth in the fastest car. So, yeah, he reported that the bands didn't feel right, but it was only after, though, the checkered flag, then the team discovered that this tear-off had become lodged in the floor of the car. We went long on the first stint, said Red Bull team principal Christian Horner, and his actual pace when he was coming through the field on the hard tyre as he closed in on Fernando was strong and matching that of the leaders. And then literally, as he's passed Fernando, he picked up a tear-off underneath the floor. It got lodged in an area and that caused significant load loss. That does make sense because he was very fast coming up to Alonso, passing Alonso. And so as he's then passed Alonso, the car's not working as it should. And so then you start to see degradation on the tyre. And again, at the end of the second stint, which has been unusual for our cars. Now, regarding the impact on downforce, Horner said in excess of 20 points. So it's a significant amount. It just shows how sensitive these things are. Now, asked if Perez could have challenged Carlos and Leclerc had he not had that 3-place grid trip, Horner thinks the Italian team, this is quite interesting. They probably have the edge. So in relation to the Red Bulls challenging the Ferraris, he said it's difficult to say. I mean, for sure he's been compromised when he's picked up the issue with the floor. I think they were maybe a bit too quick today, but you never know. Now, Perez suggested that the Albert Park track did not suit the Red Bull. If you remember, even Max Verstappen lost the lead the last year to the two Mercedes, but then he got it back really quickly because, well, good driver, very good car. I think it's probably tarmac related, though, said Perez, in relation to the Albert Park. If you remember Vegas, we were already struggling there last year. So I think there's something in it. We just have to make sure that we work hard to try and understand what the issues are. I think today we didn't have the pace as a team. If you see Max was overtaking within 2 laps, that already shows something. So yeah, Perez maybe not all to blame. So it's sort of an apology for Perez there. Kind of. Yeah. So is he still a loser? Well, he held up another driver. That not necessarily on him, but there are still cars in between him and Max. And yeah, maybe. I don't know. Moving on. I've got splinters. I've sat on that fence. So Fred Vasseur shuts down Carlos Sainz talk as Spanish media cries foul. Of course, the Spanish media very passionate about their Spanish drivers, Alonso and Carlos. So Ferrari team boss Fred Vasseur says he will not talk about Carlos's future after the non-renewed, unemployed Ferrari driver won the Australian Grand Prix. So 2 weeks after his appendicitis, if you will, he raced to victory at the Australian Grand Prix, and so far he remains the only non-Red Bull driver since the beginning of 2022 to win a race. Now, Fred Vasseur, as we know, he's not going to talk about it, and as we know, Mr. Sainz is jobless currently for next season. I doubt that's going to remain jobless for next season for long, as Ferrari opted not to renew him and chose Lewis Hamilton to be Charles Leclerc's teammate. Now, having conferred in January that Leclerc would continue with the team, it was obviously quite obvious that Sainz was gone. Now, instead, shocked the paddock, though, by signing Hamilton. They did allegedly tell Sainz before that. Now, Sainz is in the hunt for a new team for next season. And putting his appendicitis issues behind him, he won that Australian Grand Prix, but Vasseur was refused to talk about that signing next year. He said, I'm not going to talk about it next year. There you go, fairly obvious. He went, we reached an agreement with Carlos a few weeks ago to focus only on this championship and not to talk about the future. And to be fair, that's something Vasseur has done. He hasn't really spoken about Hamilton at all. They're focusing on this year. And he said there are still 20 races to go, which are 20 opportunities to win. We have to focus on that. Absolutely they do. Could Ferrari win the championship? Doubtful. I think Red Bull are still the favourites in both drivers and constructors. But in relation to the constructors, because they're quite close to them now in the championship, the big issue could be Sergio Perez. And if he starts if the grid close up and Perez starts qualifying, for example, 4th, 5th, 6th, and Ferrari constantly finishing at least 2nd and 3rd, that constructors could go Ferrari's way. So in terms of the two championships, I think it's a lot more. It's more palatable to believe that Ferrari could win the constructors rather than one of the Ferrari drivers winning the drivers' championship. I think, anyway, personally. Let us know what you think. Like and subscribe if you can. That would be amazing. Stay tuned for more action on the hot lap. Check out if you're into rally, check out our Safari Rally preview with Chris. It was a really interesting one. We spoke for an hour, and I'm sending out little clips here and there. We talk about the drivers in the most recent one. We'll probably have our podium predictions coming up as well. And ultimately, I'll release the whole chat, which is about an hour of 100% rally talk with this guy who's completely knowledgeable. If you don't like rally, I guess don't watch. But please, comment below. Let us know what you think of the Australian Grand Prix. That would be amazing. I try and reply to all comments as soon as I can. Sometimes it takes a couple of days, but I do my best to reply. And anyone commenting, even if you completely disagree, it's absolutely appreciate every comment because it's like some kind of interaction. It makes doing this worth it. And on that note, we'll speak to you soon. Thank you very much.